Lord help them. Hey guys, welcome back to VM Nation. Guys, this is going to be a fun episode. We're going to be talking all things business, all things podcasting. But first of all, I want to thank our sponsor, me. I want to thank, we have a new product out. It's called Vertical Momentum Coffee. It's not your mother's coffee. It's an ass-kicking coffee. So if you're tired of getting your ass kicked on Monday morning, this will help you kick its ass. But all my proceeds go to help veterans that are struggling with PTSD and depression. So I make $0 off of it, but I just want to let you know why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it's not just some selfless plug. But guys, this is going to be a great episode with my friend Matt. We're going to be talking all things business, all things podcasting, because podcasting is the new radio. So Matt, what is one thing? Well, welcome to VM Nation, first of all.
Well, thanks, man, for having me. I appreciate it. I'm totally honored to be on the show.
What is one thing about podcasting that most people don't know?
That people listen to it in their quiet time. So I always say to business owners, when is the last time you were invited into your ideal client or prospect's quiet time without being creepy? And they're like, well, never, right? People listen to podcasts when they're exercising, when they're cooking dinner, when they're driving down the road. And it is so intimate that I don't think people really understand the power behind it and how you can really build a relationship with anybody through this media like you have, Rich. I mean, the relationships that you build when it's convenient for somebody to listen to this show is absolutely huge. And we believe is entirely business changing.
Now, I love it. Now, it seems like everybody has a podcast anywhere you go. What amazes me, I've only been doing this, I think January 1st will be my third year. Huh. 380 episodes or something stupid. But it's amazing to me that everybody has a podcast, but the average podcast only lasts between 8 and 13 episodes.
That's right.
Why is
pod fade? Yeah, it's pod fade. Is people run out of ideas, right? So the problem is so many people have started. In fact, one of the last, like 50% of podcasts that start don't make it past that. That like we call it pod fade. I didn't. I actually stole that from somebody, but it's because people don't know how to plan for their stuff, man. That's it. Before you ever hit record, you should have 12 to 24 episodes outlined and ready to go, philosophically understanding the foundation of each of those episodes. If you don't have that, don't start until you have that done. In fact, I do presentations all the time. And when you leave the presentation, you will have 12 episodes outlined before you ever leave. And it usually takes me about 6 minutes to do. But that to me is the key. And it's funny that you say everybody has a podcast, because in the world of business, nobody's got podcasts on the grand scheme of things. No experts are out there getting their voice out in the marketplace. Nowhere near enough. There's so much misinformation out there, man. And I believe it is our responsibility as local experts to have our voices heard in our marketplaces, because we know our community better than some huge mainstream corporate media.
Now, I love podcasting now. And I've only been listening to them, like I said, about 3 years. And it was because of two gentlemen that I really respect, Mr. Ed Milet and Mr. Gary Vaynerchuk, which I actually had the pleasure of having lunch with one day. And it's amazing how, like you said, it's like you're sitting next to somebody.
Yeah.
And you can actually, like your brain, because I'm getting really into NLP and the mind, and that a person, your brain doesn't know whether a person is sitting next to you or 1,000 miles away. So when a person says, I can't find any mentors, well, podcasts are free.
Oh yeah.
And once you start really realizing that, if you listen to, like, I listened to Mr. Will Smith just did a presentation. He said, I can do anything if I can excel in anything if I do it for 10,000 hours or more.
That's right. Yeah.
So I think, I think you can learn so much without even having to go to college, just by listening to podcasts. What are your thoughts on that?
Every bit of information you could ever need to be successful exists through this medium we're in right now, which is a computer, right? It was so funny when my kids were growing up. They would ask me a question, and I'd be like, but I don't know the answer. And they're like, well, can't we just look it up? And I thought to myself, well, holy crap. I had to go to the Encyclopedia Britannicals
Yeah.
at my grandparents' house to look stuff up, and God only knows how accurate that stuff was. So it's unbelievable, the information that is at our fingertips. And you talked about neurolinguistic programming. So I just want to talk about the core of the power of the intimacy of that stimulus, because basically what you are doing when you're listening to a podcast, it's a passive activity that's engaging your brain. So you're driving, which is mindless, you're cooking, which is generally mindless, you're exercising, which is generally mindless. And you're taking that environment and adding a stimulus into it, which actually is going to connect more neurotransmitters and neuroconnections in your brain in a more favorable way. So every time you exercise, I'm going to think of Richard. Every time you're cooking, you know what I mean? And that's why it's so powerful. And I just don't think people understand that we have 2 years, right? And the audio that lives in our head is one of those things that can be a tape that plays over and over and over again in a positive way.
And now, like I said, I want to thank the listeners that are listening on YouTube right now, LinkedIn, and Facebook. A lot of people don't realize that YouTube on some days and some days others is the number 1 or number 2 search engine in the world. Mm-hmm. So, and people don't realize you can get your business in front of all of those people by doing what we're doing, and it doesn't cost a whole lot. A lot of people, like if you ever watch some of Gary's biggest, most popular videos, he had like a flip phone, and he was at a garage sale, and it had like 10 million views. So talk to us about, because there's some people out there, and they don't want to get in your past a little bit, but there's some people out there, they think I got to have the perfect mic, I got to have the perfect earphones, the perfect camera, and then they never do it at all.
Well, it's analysis paralysis, right? So many people actually have that. And it's really funny. I just upgraded within the last probably 18 months, one piece of my equipment. I've had this is a Shure SM58, $99 microphone. I've had this mic for 5 years. In fact, I used to use this when I was a DJ, when I was 13 years old. So I have a very strong relationship with this mic. But here's the thing. All you need, in fact, I don't have my prop near me. Oh, that's terrible. Those old Apple earbuds that have just that little microphone. If you ever, I'm sure a lot of people watch TikToks, but they're always talking into that little square microphone that's in the cord. That's all you need to start. That's all you need to start. That microphone is amazing. It costs you next to nothing. You don't need to have a crazy setup. And by the way, I'm all in. I'm a professional podcaster. This is what I do for a living. I have less than $800 worth of equipment. Less than 800. And this is all I do, dude. But all you need is the Apple earbuds or anything that has that really great microphone in there, Richard. That's all you need. You need a phone, an idea, 12 episodes in your brain, and then hit record.
Now, like I said, I just hit 380 episodes or something like that. And today was the first day I ever bought a microphone. I got a microphone for Christmas. So I've been using, I got a brand new phone. And a lot of people don't realize your phone has a great camera.
Yep.
Sometimes even better, some of the most expensive cameras, and has a pretty decent microphone.
It does.
So now talk to us, let's hop in the Wayback Machine. How did you first get involved in podcasting? Because, a lot of people before 3 years ago, 5 years ago, didn't know what the hell a podcast was.
Well, I started in radio. So when I was 13, my high school had a radio station. I don't know why it had a radio station, but I was Madman Matt Halloran. So I started when I was 13, and I did that all the way until I graduated from high school. Then I went into the Navy, and I wanted to actually do radio in the Navy, but man, it's like the most competitive job you could ever get. So I went in a different direction. When I got out of the Navy, I went to my local community college and then my local college here in Kalamazoo, and there was a radio station there too. And I was like, I got to dip my toe back into this. So that's where I cut my teeth. So I really did the whole DJ thing for about 6 years of my life, early in my early life. And then my business partner and I realized that we just needed to do something fundamentally different. We needed to have a way to, what we refer to as, scale our credibility and really just give everything away. And so that's what I ended up doing. We ended up doing is, so we started out with our first podcast, which was Mod Marketing for the 21st Century. We did about 50 episodes of that. They exist somewhere, not out in the world right now. And then we've done 370 episodes of the Top Advisor Marketing Podcast, about 40 episodes of the Be Your Own Loud podcast. And then I co-host another 400 or 500 podcasts. But we found that this is the way to really get to our ideal audience. And just to be very specific, you talked about, as I'm sure many of you know, Richard's got a pregame, right? So before we get on the show, he tells you a couple of things to make sure that you know what's going on, and he sets you good expectations so you'll hopefully be a good guest. And your ideal avatar is who you want to focus on when you podcast. Now, we have one also, right? And so what we're finding is if you're looking for highly educated, successful people who like to delegate, who make over $250,000 a year, they listen to up to 6 to 8 podcasts a week. Why can't yours be one of them? And so that's what we wanted to do. We work in a very highly regulated industry, which is financial services. And we found that they were just consuming content because they drive so much to appointments and they travel a lot. And we wanted to be there when they wanted us to be there. And so we started the Top Advisor Marketing Podcast, and that's our longest running show.
And it's very easy to listen to podcasts now. Like I just hop in my car and plug in my phone, and it comes right up on the thing, right up on my, just hit the button.
That's right.
And it'll play through your car speaker. So it's not like you're, just listening to it. And you're like, when I first started listening to podcasts, I would get into bad areas and you wouldn't get service. So it's a lot different now, but there is a lot of noise out there,
Sure.
And I think a lot of people, they try to be like the next Gary V. They try, okay, maybe I'll curse a lot. Maybe that'll get people. Or, for us veterans, Jocko is number one. Mm-hmm. I can't do 4 hours and talk about books. For me, it's like having, two brothers just having a cup of coffee. That's my way I do things. So talk to us about finding your own, having your niche, but kind of finding your own way in that niche.
Well, here's the thing. Oscar Wilde said, you might as well be yourself because everyone else is taken. And it took me a long time to really embrace that as a man, as a veteran, as an adult, as a business owner, an entrepreneur, as a father, because you always want to be like other people, right? Maybe if I'm more like this person. And honestly, about 6 years ago, I just woke up and realized it's exhausting. And then I'm in competition with all of these other people who are trying to be like those people. Richard, when you have the opportunity to give yourself that gift of being yourself, you have no competition because nobody's you. And that's what people are looking for in the world of podcasting. That's what people want to connect with. They want to connect with an original. Gary V is a perfect example. Gary's not anybody but Gary, right? Unapologetically, he's not anybody but himself. So don't try to be like him. Learn from him. Absolutely. But find out who you are. Take that journey within yourself. Look at all of the scars, the things that suck, the things that you want to improve, embrace those. And that's what you bring to your audience, because then there's a real connection. Richard, this is why people love your show, because you are you. You're not trying to be anybody else. You are just trying to hang out with a buddy, drink a cup of coffee, and have a good conversation. That's why people connect with you. And the people who are listening to this, who want to start a podcast, figure that out. Now, mind you, that's a big ask, dude. Really being okay with your own skin. I'm not joking around. That's a really important thing in life. But it's even better when you do a show, because that's what people connect with. Just very quickly, Oprah's Oprah. Oprah's not anybody else. Phil Donahue was Phil Donahue. He wasn't anybody else. Larry King, unapologetically, Larry King. Right? You look at all of those people, they were themselves. Be yourself before you get behind the microphone. And that's when people will start really feeling the real connection.
Now, I've listened because sometimes I'll do a throwback from one of my first shows. Mm-hmm. And I was like, God, you suck. Yeah. Like I would listen and I would hear all the ums, the ahs, or I would hear, me talking over guests and not waiting for them to finish a thought. Until my wife started saying, "Hey, dumbass, let them finish their, let them finish what they're saying." And I'm like, "Okay, I get it. But a lot of people, even like JLD said when he came on the show, you're gonna suck,
Yeah.
and it's okay. Because even Derek Jeter, when he came from Kalamazoo, and when he got drafted, he was a rookie.
Oh yeah.
And we all become rookies. If you want to be great, you got to start as a rookie. So talk to us about, sometimes when I'm sure you still listen to some of your old shows, and you're like, God, that was horrible.
It was, yeah. I mean, there's technical issues. Again, everything you just said, so, talking over people, getting too excited, volume issues. But here's the fun part. People love to see you grow as a person. And if they can join you on that journey, when you're 400 episodes in like you are, people love you even more because you, again, were real at the beginning. And they also like seeing progress. People love seeing progress, right? People love when you get better and better and better at your craft. Jeter's a great example. He wasn't great when he was a rookie. And then look what he became because he put the time in, he focused, he listened to himself, he watched the tapes, all of those things. If you want to be a professional, anything, you have to behave as a professional. Watch the tapes, find coaches, find mentors, review, continuous improvement, Kaizen, gradual continuous improvement. If you do that, then when you get 400 episodes in, 1,000 episodes in, you're just going to be transformed, and you brought people along for that whole transformation. I hate listening to my first shows because I thought I was doing so well, Richard, and I sucked, man. But I don't suck as bad anymore, and I like that.
And I'm a big sports geek. I've always been a sports geek, and a lot of people don't realize that Peyton Manning's first year, he threw like eventually he became the Peyton Manning, but he was always the most prepared person in the room. Now, for me, like before I knew you were coming on, obviously I followed you on Facebook. I followed you everywhere, started consuming your content. I wanted to know about you. I wanted to be up on you, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But I also didn't want to be that guy that has 18 questions to ask. And then it's because for me, it's kind of like if me and you go to have burgers somewhere, we're not going to have a list of questions that we're going to talk about. And I think a lot of people, when they first started doing this, that's what they first do. They're like, here, I'm going to send you a list of questions. And I automatically write back to them when I'm going to be on their show. I'm like, don't even bother. I'm not going to look.
Yeah.
Because my ADD will kick in.
Yeah.
So now talk to us. Where do you think the future of podcasting is?
Oh, I think we haven't even begun to. I don't think we've begun to do anything with the future of podcasting, to be really honest. I think that the future hasn't been laid out. What I see is more and more people who I think are going to want to have the opportunity to take their podcast. Gary V said something. I'm going to rewind. Gary V said something that was really influential on us a while ago. And what that was he said, look, do one thing, choose one media, and then chop it up and turn it into hundreds of other pieces of content. And that's why Gary V has been ubiquitous, right? He's everywhere at all times, every platform, but he's still not shooting things on a flip phone, but pretty close, right? That's what we think is where this is going. You take your podcast, you transcribe that podcast, you take the super smart stuff that you say, you chop it up into a whole bunch of pieces to not only point back to your show, but also to point back to your thought leadership. That is the future of podcasting. And there are people who can do that for you, which is really why my whole company exists specifically, but you can do that yourself. But I think that's the future. I don't think video is the future because people who consume podcasts consume podcasts. People who consume video, right? Yes, is there some overlap at like what you're doing here, but you're doing what Gary Vee taught, which is you've got the video, you're live streaming all over social. Then you're going to turn this into a podcast. That's what I think is the game changing winner.
Now, like I said, there's thousands and thousands of podcasts out there, and like John Lee Dumas, I talk about him a lot because he taught me a lot. He always said when you're trying to find your niche, go an inch wide but go a mile deep,
Yeah.
and to try to find out who your avatar is, age, sex, location, where they shop, what they buy. So when you first started out, how did you go about figuring out your avatar?
Yeah, well, luckily my business partner was a marketing and branding consultant. So like he forced both of us to go through a branding process. And part of the branding process is just that, right? It's what do you need to do? Who do you need to talk to? What do they look like? And it's not just the demographics, right? It's not just age, sex, employment. It's also all the psychographic information. What do they like to do? What are your points of connection with them? And once you figure that stuff out, it's you feel like you're talking to the right people, right? I love when we do our shows because I know exactly who I am hoping, not guaranteed, hoping is listening to our show. And we've gotten really, really specific with our ideal target market. And that's something that each of you all should do. Everybody who's listening to this wants to start a podcast, use their podcast for personal growth and development or business growth and development. You need to be really, really specific, and then take the specificity of your ideal target market and put that into the description of your show. There's so many little tips and tricks, Richard, that I don't think people understand. The power of hashtags, the power of keywords, the power of lists, right? The power of infusing the summary of your show with what you want people to glean from it will make the search engines, YouTube, Google, wherever you are, find your podcast so much faster because they love podcasts because it's got written stuff. It's a lot of times it's got video and it's got audio. So you're firing on all cylinders.
So now, if somebody's out there right now and they're contemplating starting a podcast, where would they start? What kind of just basic equipment would they need?
Sure.
And is there any books, courses, tapes that you would advise them listen to before they start on their journey?
Sure. So I'm going to try really hard not to be shamelessly promoting here because we just launched our academy, Richard. So we created something called Pod Rocket Academy. There's a free version you can join for free. We teach you absolutely everything that I'm going to summarize here. So here's what you need. You need an idea. You need outlines of podcasts. You don't need a great microphone. Now, I do recommend there's this great microphone. It's the Samson Q2U, which is a USB condenser microphone. It's much like this. It's a great mic. It's like $40 on Amazon. I highly recommend that microphone because it allows you to expand, and I'm not going to get into all the details. So from an equipment perspective, a good microphone, a great idea, but you giving yourself the gift to be yourself, that is where the podcast magic happens. Now, the other thing that you need to figure out is where are you going to syndicate your show? Now, there's lots of places out there. There's Zencaster, like what we're on right now, which is what StreamYard. You've got Restream. You've got Riverside. You've got all of these places. We use a company called Blueberry, Blubrry. They are the people that will get your podcast out to the world. It's very, very cost effective, and they got good analytics on the back end. But if you have those things, so most of you are already on social, so that's going to be your outlet for your podcast. But a pretty good microphone, right? Not necessarily the Apple one is still fantastic. Great ideas, allowing yourself to be yourself. And then focus on just putting out consistent content. Don't overwhelm yourself. You said something right at the beginning, where most people don't get past 8 episodes, right? It's because they try to do them with too much frequency. We did a podcast every other week. That's where we started. Now I do more than 2 a week, right? But we don't do that, dude. That to me is, you need to walk before you run. You use Jeter as an example. he didn't play every game, right? So why are you trying to play every game as a podcaster? What you should do is just, do just one a month. Start building that library, get comfortable behind the microphone and do that. And if you do that, that's when things start to change. You find your groove. Like, you've got a groove, brother. It's awesome. You can feel it. This is your medium. You know it. You got it. You're confident, but you weren't that way, 300 episodes ago. So walk before you run, basic equipment, find a mentor, right? That's another important thing. Like you did with Dumas, right? There's a lot of different people that you can find. Follow people who have podcasts on LinkedIn, social media, Instagram, wherever you are, and just watch what they're doing and see what you like, and then implement that into your show.
All right. So, I want to say thank you for coming on today. But I can't wait for our episode. I'm excited. But I'm always about supporting, especially my veterans. But my friends. I consider you a friend now.
Thanks, man.
How do we find you? How can we find your shows? How can we support your mission?
So our mission is to free the world's experts from the torment of sales. So most of you out there who are experts in your field, whatever it is, it doesn't matter if you're a roofing expert, if you're a plumbing expert, if you're a financial advisor, an accountant, a lawyer, it doesn't matter. If you've done that 10,000 hours, you're an expert. And our goal is to free you from the torment of sales, where you have to close people and do all that stuff that makes all of us feel yucky. And what we know is if you put out great content, you don't ever have to sell. I don't ever sell. I answer questions, right? I don't overcome objections. I have conversations, right? It's just changed everything that we're putting all of this content out. Give everything away for free. Follow me on LinkedIn. I don't really spend a lot of time on other social media. And the main reason why is because I use social media to grow my business. And that's how we get 90% of our prospects anyway, is through LinkedIn specifically. So, follow us on LinkedIn. Proudmouth.com is our website. We give away everything you could ever need to start your own show, create your own content marketing. We've got I don't even know how many episodes we've got, but the Top Advisor Marketing Podcast, if you're in financial services, that is our longest running podcast. And then the new one, which you're going to be on, is the Be Your Own Loud podcast, where I'm interviewing people like you who have allowed themselves to be themselves. And when that light switch turned on, or you flipped the switch, or whatever you want to call it, that's when success really happened. And I've had some really amazing, we've actually had a couple of multiple guests that have been on your show that have been on our show already. So that's some good ways to connect with us. And I would love connections. If you guys have any questions about starting your own show, just message me on LinkedIn. I have two jobs, Richard. I'm either podcasting or I talk about podcasting. This is my whole life and what I get up every morning to do. And I would be honored to help anybody who's listening.
Brother, I want to say thank you for everything you do for me. I'm truly humbled and honored for your friendship. So guys, definitely check out his podcast. Check out everything he's got going on. Follow him on LinkedIn. Follow him on Facebook. Just follow him everywhere. Guys, like I said, if you want some ass-kicking coffee, Vertical Momentum Coffee, 100% of my proceeds go to help veterans that are struggling with PTSD and TBI. So if you want to get jacked up and have a reason to get jacked up, take the coffee. I love you guys. And please leave a comment, leave a review. We don't make any money from what we do. So just let us know that we're doing our job and changing the world. And guys, remember, vertical momentum, the only way to go is but up. Love you guys. Catch you on the flip.